to dance with life, to feel every note, every beat, without hurry, without fear. But that is what we often forget. Life is not a race. It is a dance. Wu Wei, the art of not forcing, is the music that has always been playing. Yet so many of us have never truly learned how to listen. Alan Watts invited an entire generation to question their deepest beliefs about what it means to live well. He understood something powerful, that as long as we keep trying to win at life, we are destined to lose it. His words still echo today because he spoke not only of ancient philosophy, but of the silent wounds we all carry: modern loneliness, existential anxiety, the pain of being disconnected from the present. But Watts also warned, knowing about Wu Wei is not enough. It's useless if we continue paddling against the current in our daily lives. And that is what we'll explore next. The metaphor of the river, central to Alan Watts's wisdom, reveals not only the cause of our suffering, but the path to real freedom. Close your eyes. Imagine a vast, powerful river, flowing with ancient energy. It carries everything: stones, leaves, logs, fish, even pieces of the earth itself. Now imagine a person submerged in that river, struggling to swim against the current. Every stroke is a battle. Every move forward is defeated. Their muscles tense. Their mind panics. And the more they resist, the further they drift from peace. This is how Watts described human suffering. The river is not just a poetic image. It is a brutal truth, because most suffering in life doesn't come from what happens to us, but from our resistance to what is. You lose a job. A relationship ends. A plan falls apart, and instead of accepting reality, you cling to the past, desperately trying to grasp what has already slipped away, like trying to hold water in your hands. Watts explained, life, like a river, has its own rhythm, its own wisdom. You don't need to force it. You only need to trust its flow. This isn't passivity. This is alignment. It's learning to surf the waves, not to control them, but to move with them. When we fight against reality, we create inner tension. In the body, in the mind, in the spirit. We live at war with life, with others, with ourselves. The result: chronic anxiety, frustration, resentment, a haunting feeling of helplessness. And the cruelest part, somewhere deep down, you know you're sinking, but the fear of letting go is greater than the pain of holding on. Yet the river holds a quiet promise. There is another way to live, a way without endless struggle, a way where letting go doesn't mean losing yourself. It means finally finding yourself. When you stop resisting, the river becomes your ally. It takes you to places your mind could never plan. But to allow this, you need courage. The courage to trust the unknown, to release the illusion of control, and in today's world, conditioned to fight, to compete, to dominate. This courage is not a luxury. It is a necessity. In the next section, we'll explore exactly that. How Western culture has built an invisible prison of control, effort, and exhaustion. And how this mindset is silently destroying us from within. From childhood, you've been told, don't give up, push harder, the strong succeed. And so, you grew up believing that if you're not constantly doing, forcing, correcting, something terrible will happen. What you didn't realize is this. This belief has created an invisible prison inside you. A prison of tension, fear masked as ambition, anxiety dressed as determination. Alan Watts saw this with piercing clarity. He knew the West, by idolizing control and effort, had created a neurotic society, a world where people run endlessly without knowing where they're going, where doing is more valued than being, where stillness feels like failure. We live in a culture obsessed with excess, excess productivity, excess information, excess goals. Life has become a project to manage, optimize, maximize. And in this madness, you lose yourself. You become a stranger in your own existence. Have you felt it? That emptiness. Even when you're doing everything right, studying, working, producing, but still something essential feels missing. It is missing. What's missing is your connection to the natural flow of life, to the Tao, that which cannot be forced, only lived. But a mind trained in control can't accept this. It fears the unknown. It wants guarantees, and so it builds suffocating routines, rigid goals, strategies to kill uncertainty. But in doing so, it also kills the mystery, the surprise, the spontaneity that makes life magical. Watts warned us, the more we try to control life, the more we separate ourselves from it. It's like trying to preserve the fragrance of a flower by sealing it in a vault. You keep the form, but lose the essence. The result is a mechanical existence, where even your emotions, your relationships, your dreams are managed like a business. But there is a way out, a way to return to lightness, to freedom, without abandoning your responsibilities, but letting go of the illusion of control. And that is exactly what we will explore next. How to apply the principle of Wu Wei, not in theory, but in practice, in the midst of a world that demands speed, but silently craves presence. Get ready to discover that doing less is not weakness, it is wisdom. That effortless action, paradoxically, takes you further than force ever could. Have you ever really noticed how tired you are? Tired of trying, tired of pushing, tired of fighting against time, against expectations, against others, against yourself. Maybe you haven't consciously realized it yet, but there's a deep, quiet exhaustion that builds when you're constantly trying to control life. You pressure yourself to be more productive, more positive, more stable. You force yourself to make decisions, maintain relationships, follow routines that no longer nourish you. And the more you try, the more everything seems to slip through your fingers. Like water, like sand, like life itself. This is where a powerful, ancient principle can change everything. Wu Wei, a concept from Taoism, which philosopher Alan Watts translated as acting without forcing. But don't confuse this with passivity or weakness. Wu Wei is not doing nothing. It is doing with harmony, awareness, and flow. It is the quiet strength of acting in alignment with life, not in resistance to it. Think of a dancer who moves with the rhythm, not against it, or a surfer who doesn't try to dominate the sea, but learns to ride the wave. Now pause. How often do you try to force things that aren't ready? How many times a day do you blame yourself for not controlling what was never yours to control? How many decisions have you made out of fear? Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of not being enough. We were taught to fight life, to chase success through effort and persistence, even when our inner voice whispers, stop. And so we become anxious, disconnected adults. Not because we're broken, but because we were never taught how to let go, how to trust, how to simply be. Wu Wei is not laziness. It's doing with presence, with gentleness, with respect for the natural timing of things. It's the difference between the exhausted rower and the wise sailor. The rower fights the current. The sailor adjusts the sails and navigates with the wind. Alan Watts once said, "When you stop forcing life, something magical happens. The right doors open, the right paths appear, the right answers surface, not through struggle, but because you made space for them to arise. And maybe, just maybe, you're here listening to this because you're already tired, because some part of you knows forcing doesn't work. Deep down, you're already longing for a different way. A way that feels more peaceful, more real, more you in. The next few moments, you'll discover why Wu Wei isn't just a beautiful philosophy. It's a practice, a key, a new way of seeing. One that can return to your life what you've always been seeking through control. Peace. Not a shallow surface level peace, but a deep peace that comes from living in harmony with life, with yourself, with what is. So breathe. Let your shoulders drop. Be here now, because this journey is just beginning. To truly grasp the essence of Wu Wei, we have to go beyond poetic words. We have to go to the source, Taoism and Zen, and for that, I invite you, forget what you've been taught about philosophy. This is not about memorizing ideas. Tao and Zen aren't mental concepts. They are felt experiences. They are not theories, but living truths. The Tao, the way, is not a rule book. It is the invisible flow that moves through all things. The growth of trees, the cycle of seasons, the dance of life and death, joy and sorrow, all guided by a natural intelligence far beyond our understanding. Lao Tzu, the Taoist master, said, "The Tao that can be spoken is not the true Tao." Why? Because the moment we try to capture life with words, life has already moved on. The Tao is like the wind. You can feel it, you can follow it, but you can never hold it. Zen grew from this same realization. When Buddhism met Taoism in ancient China, Zen was born, a tradition that doesn't try to explain reality, but to remove everything that blocks us from experiencing it directly. Zen has no dogmas, no doctrines, just presence, radical quiet presence. In the breath, in each step, in each gesture. Taoism and Zen whisper a hard truth to the ego. You are not in control. You never were, and your need to control is what separates you from life. What they offer is not an escape, but a return, a reconnection to a trust you once had, perhaps as a child, when you could still fall without shame, try without needing to succeed, play without fear. Yet for many, these ancient teachings feel distant.